Enjoy our series on European Cup underdogs? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to World Cup Underdogs, where in this series we will take another look through the history books, this time with a wider international view on some of the smaller nations that sent shockwaves through the biggest tournament of them all, the FIFA World Cup. We will be venturing through many years and many continents, telling some of the tales you might have missed out on when it comes to brilliant World Cup upsets. We'll travel through the decades, looking at some of Asia and Africa's brightest sparks, as well as analysing how some smaller European nations like Ireland and Bulgaria managed to make it past some global giants. But in our first video, we're going to focus on perhaps the most impressive underdogs of all, 2018 World Cup finalists, Croatia. Croatia is well known for its fantastic football now, to the extent you might even have forgotten that the population is just under 4 million people. That's right, this Balkan nation is relatively tiny. France beat Croatia in the 2018 final, but France has a population of 67 million people. Argentina beat Croatia in the 2022 World Cup semi-final, but Argentina has a population of around 46 million people. The Croats punch above their weight. Let's not forget Croatia's historic quarter-final victory over Brazil, a country with football heritage like no other and a humongous population of 214 million people. That's 53 times more than the amount in Croatia. In stunning fashion, Croatia now have been fighting well above their weight class for years on end. They only declared independence in 1991, and the country spent the next few years at war. Since then, they have qualified for 6 out of 7 World Cups, reaching the semi-finals and then finishing third in 1998 as well as 2022. And of course reaching the final in 2018. There's a strong argument that Croatia might be the top underdogs in all of international football. Who would have thought that this stunning country on the Adriatic Sea, with a small population and a recent history of war and violence, would be such a perfect breeding ground for top-level footballers? In 1998, much like Luka Modric today, Croatia had a very clear protagonist in their squad. His name was Davor Suker. Suker won the Golden Boot Award at France '98. He was the only man with 6 goals at the end of the tournament, closely followed by Christian Vieri and Gabriel Batistuta, on 5 goals each. Player of the tournament Ronaldo had 4, not bad company to keep. Like Modric, Davor Suker was a Galactico, and in fact in the summer of 1998, before joining up with Croatia for the World Cup, he won the Champions League with Real Madrid, where he would play 109 times, scoring 49 goals. Suker won various honours with Madrid, was a UEFA Cup runner-up with Arsenal, and also had a very successful spell at Sevilla. But for his national side in particular, he would shine, finishing his Croatia career in 2002 after scoring 46 goals in 71 games, comfortably bagging a goal once every 2 games for his nation. It was Suker indeed that would seal a victory over Jamaica in the opening group game of their 1998 World Cup campaign, and then score the only goal in their 1-0 win over Japan on the second match day to secure a place in the round of 16. In that round, Croatia saw off Romania 1-0. Guess who? That's right, Davor Suker. And then in true underdog fashion, Croatia famously defeated Germany in the quarterfinals. The Germans were the European champions at the time, but a 3-0 victory, including another goal for Suker, put the Croats in their first ever World Cup semi-final on their first ever World Cup appearance. They would face hosts France at the Stade de France in the semi-finals. It was always going to be a tough task to reach the final, and in the end France would win the game and go on to win the trophy on home soil. Croatia did take the lead, however, through some magic from Davor Suker once again. 2 goals from Thuram turned things around for France, but Croatia would go on to take 3rd place at the tournament and leave with their heads held very high. They beat the Netherlands 2-1 in the playoff game, and Davor Suker scored the winner. Perhaps the best World Cup performance not to win the player of the tournament? We think so. He can't be far off. But what a stunning achievement for Croatia, and what better way to make a young nation even more football crazy than it already was. Fast forward to 2018 and Luka Modric has taken over from Suker as Croatia's Real Madrid-based superstar. The midfield maestro is actually the only Croatian to ever win the Ballon d'Or trophy, to become the best player on the planet. And he'll go down in history as one of the best ever midfielders, still going strong now at 37. In 2018, Croatia arrived at the tournament with a strong squad and certainly more revered than they had been in '98, but they were far from considered contenders, perhaps dark horses at the very most. That didn't stop them, and this small nation recorded their best ever finish, picking up silver medals in Moscow after suffering a 4-2 defeat to a pretty incredible French side, led by 1998 winning captain Didier Deschamps as coach. Croatia won all 3 group games convincingly in Russia and marked another historic World Cup victory. They smashed Lionel Messi's Argentina 3-0 to seal their place in the knockout rounds. Top-level players like Ivan Rakitic and Ivan Perisic stepped up to the plate, and Croatia looked like a rather menacing outfit. A roller coaster ride began for the Croats in the next round though. They would have to play extra time and win on penalties twice in order to reach the semi-finals. First in the round of 16, they snuck past fellow European dark horses Denmark 3-2 on penalties, and then in the quarter-finals, they would have to slog it out against host Russia in front of a boisterous crowd in Sochi. The game finished 1-1 after 90 minutes and 2-2 after extra time. Finally, Croatia would knock out the hosts with a 4-3 shootout victory. And with that win, Croatia matched their World Cup miracle of 20 years before by reaching the semi-finals. Now they would face a much fancied England side who had been building up a head of steam themselves in the tournament and arrived in the semis with a less tiring tournament route than the Croats. It would go to extra time again. It didn't look good for Croatia either. They were 1-0 down after 5 minutes and could easily have grown weary and ran out of ideas. But people from the Balkan nations are some of the most resilient on the planet, and time again, Croatia have done their nation proud with that never say die attitude. Perisic would equalise with 20 minutes left to go, and Mario Mandzukic would strike the vital blow in the 109th minute. This time, an extra time victory would do the job, and there was no need for penalties. Croatia had reached the World Cup final in historic fashion. In the end, the referee didn't favour the Croats much in the final, but it was always going to be a tough ask against France. The French had a ferociously talented squad. Croatia put up a brave fight, but would have to settle for second, a simply stunning achievement for a country born in the 90s with a population of under 4 million people. Luka Modric was deservedly named Player of the Tournament. Had Croatia fallen off the face of world football at this stage, they still would have been heralded as fine underdogs. But to come back again in 2022 to compete just as fantastically says it all about their attitude as a football team and the quality they have in their ranks. Again in 2022 they were overlooked, and critics seemed to be correct when Croatia opened their campaign with a drab 0-0 draw with Morocco. Little did we know that these two underdogs would go on to meet again in the third place playoff. No one would have believed that. Croatia smashed Canada 4-1 in their second group game and scraped a 0-0 draw with Belgium to pass to the knockout phase. It has to be said, rather unconvincingly. Perhaps that's when the gears started to go up, and Croatia's old age looked more of a blessing than a curse. They had more battles to fight, and the experience they had would be key. In the last 16, they would need extra time and penalties, again, to get past Japan. They did so, setting up a dream quarter-final with Brazil. It's fair to say that nobody on the planet gave them a chance. Neymar scored a stunner to put Brazil 1-0 up in extra time. But lo and behold, the little Balkan nation were at it again. A 117th minute equaliser and a penalty shootout later, and they'd beaten the World Cup favourites and the almighty Brazil. A result that truly rocked world football, another noble chapter in the Croatia tale. In the end, the Croatians had nothing left in the tank for the semis. They would go out to Lionel Messi magic and the eventual champions Argentina. They would defeat Morocco though to earn third place. 2 bronze and silver for a nation of under 4 million. Remarkable. And note, in each of the 3 World Cups we mentioned, only the eventual champions could knock out Croatia. Maybe one day they can go one further and win it all. Which Croatia World Cup performance do you find the most impressive? Are they the ultimate underdogs of international football? Leave us a comment below with your thoughts and stay tuned for the next unbelievable underdog story.